Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Can we get him up front?
Yeah, I'm going to do it in just a second. Good. You want to do it from that angle?
Can you hear us?
Yeah. Hang on one second. Wade, can you hear us? Oh, you.
You gave me the wrong control.
Oh, shoot.
You should have seen us at our fair access meeting last week. It took us 15
No,
minutes.
this one's
There wasn't that one? Okay.
This is gonna be fixed, but we're waiting, like everything's been paid or like whatever ordered, but like they're not gonna have this, the equipment until.
One second.
Third quarter, like in the fall.
Yeah, as in, yeah. There we go.
New fancy, good system, I mean,
We're just waiting on parts or something. That's the same with Kyle. We have like $2 million worth of classroom AV renovations.
Okay. Wade?
For a year. Yes.
Okay, you can hear me?
One little part.
Okay, good. We're good. Okay. And now. Hang on one second. I think that might be Ray. I'm going to mute you, Ray. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we'll go to that. Okay.
slightly down. More,
Goes to the right.
too much.
Forward.
That's good.
That's good.
That's actually pretty good, yeah.
What was all that for?
I think we're all delirious and we haven't even started.
Yeah.
Marathon begin.
I'll wait till 7.
Yeah.
Is that Greg? Hey, Greg.
Is there another meeting here?
No, there's the thing at Town Hall, Old Town Hall,
Oh.
about the historical black schools.
Oh.
I bet that's where he's going.
Good evening.
Okay. Wait.
Red's good or red's bad?
No, that's good.
Okay. Why can I remember that? Welcome to the call to order the March 15, 2023 meeting of the Poolsville Planning Commission. All commissioners in attendance. For the last time, one of us, Mr. Schramm.
Yes.
Just for the record, I've known you a long time, and I've really enjoyed knowing you. But I honestly think it's been a pleasure serving with you here on this board. And
Thanks.
I think everybody would agree. We didn't discuss it, but you're probably one of the most open-minded and objective people that I've ever been around, and it's just been a great service to the town. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I think we have a good board. Well, we did have a good board. Won't be good
Well,
anymore.
it's all going downhill now, right?
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
It's gonna go. Yes. Terrible board next month.
Any comments on, citizens' comments on agenda items? Anybody in the waiting? No. Anybody here have any comments? Good. Any announcements from staff?
So the main announcement is just that we've received applicants for the planning commission vacancy, and that they will be, they have to be interviewed by the commissioners, and that process will be starting shortly. So that's the main thing. Wade, do you have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Anything from
I
the
have no
commissioners?
announcements. Thank you.
Very good. Has everybody had the chance to read the minutes of the February 15th meeting? Any questions, comments, or edits?
Only thing that I saw edit-wise was at the end, the adjournment, I think, should be 4-0. There were 4 of us in attendance, only 3 of us voted on the approval of the previous month's minutes, because only 3 of us were there.
Yeah.
But the adjournment should be 4-0.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes as revised by Amanda.
I'll second that.
All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Okay, going on to new business. First on our new business agenda is Sustainable Poolsville Comprehensive Plan recommendations. The one and only Mr. Danny Embry.
Don should be here, but I guess he's not yet.
Do you want us to bump you down and see if he shows up? We can go do Mr. Hart's first if you'd rather.
That might, yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Hart's preliminary plan extension request.
Yes, again.
Again. Want to make sure you turn the mic on, please?
My name's Gary Hartz, 19101 Fisher Avenue, Poolsville. Hate to start out by saying I wish I wasn't here tonight.
Right.
But I don't think that's going to happen for the foreseeable future. It's just a long process. It was further complicated by the pandemic and everybody starting to telework, and I think they haven't found their desk yet, but we're still dealing with it. I'm here to request an extension on my preliminary plan. I appreciate the fact that you've extended it once already. It's to the point where I don't know how long it's going to take. I've been dealing since fall of 17 with the State Highway Administration, just trying to get an access permit that is not complicated. It's not even a, excuse me, not even a full-blown ingress and egress. It's just it's like the winery, down there. It's the same sort of it's not a big deal, but what we've had to go through to locate the underground pipes on the state highway. I wish the town had taken over that street. We could have got it done, and I wouldn't have hung up my warranty bond for 6 months after we completed the project, even to get the check back. I mean, but that's not your issue, that's mine. But just to give you an idea that this is just, it's inconsequential, the amount of things that keep getting thrown at us. So that's where we're at. And at one point, I talked to Wade, and we talked about it and said, well, can I get an extension till the state highway approves? Well, I know there's still work that goes on. John knows that too, that goes on after that. So, I don't mind coming back here. You're nice folks. I'll miss Kevin, but he's on the trustees with me, so I still get harassed there that way. So it'll still work out. But thanks, Kevin, for the contributions you provided to the town. It's always much appreciated for all of you. Been there, done that. So anyway, I don't know I know your normal is 18 months. I'll be happy to come back in 18 months again, or I'm committed to the project to get it done. I've already paid for half of the connection fees, the taps on it. So it's not like I'm gonna, buck midstream here, unless you do want to give me better zoning than I got. That's what's happening to most of the folks that drop in. I mean, I don't have it advertised, but the cold calls I got, well, for 8 homes, it's a huge infrastructure cost.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm up against. But to do that, I'd have to go back through the whole process. I've talked to the town officials on that, staff, and that's just ridiculous. So we'll just stick with the 8, and then there's only 5 of you here, so find 3 commissioners, and you can each get a 2-acre lot in Poolsville. Anyway, that's where I'm at, Mr. Bopp, and I appreciate your folks' consideration, and I'll go with any extension that you're willing to give me. If you gave me 5 years, I'd hope to have it done in less than 2, but who knows?
Seems like the same situation as before. Everything seems reasonable. You seem to be moving along as best you can, getting held up with stuff. Wade, is there anything that I'm missing that you want to add to it? No?
Not at all. 18 months is a standard, just like if you renewed it or it's brand new.
Yep.
So it's still 18 months. Makes it easy on staff.
Any other thoughts about this?
I'm okay with it, so if no one else objects, should I make a motion? Yeah, make a motion, we extend the Hart's property preliminary extension plan request by 18 months.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Maybe by
Hartz.
the next time I come in here, I'll name it something other than the Hart's property. We'll see. All right, thank you very much. Much appreciated.
You bet. Have a good night.
Your choice, Danny. You want to go or you want to go behind Bricken?
I'll go.
Okay.
I was going to do all the talking anyway.
Right.
So. How's everyone doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Well, thanks for having us. This is December 2011 is the last time an update was done, so it's crazy to think about how long ago that was,
Yeah.
and all that's happened in that time. The progress our town has made since the last update is remarkable. In the time frame my home was built, along with hundreds of others, one of the most notable achievement is our town earning the Maryland Sustainable Certification in the establishment of the Sustainable Poolsville Committee. That makes this master plan update one that provides our grand entrance into the town's continued development. Our addition in the plan provides a unique opportunity to maximize how our town will continue to develop with sustainability at the forefront. I was excited to hear that you all agree with this idea based on putting sustainable in the vision statement of the master plan. Talking to Larry, he said that's in the vision statement, and I was like, well, that's great. My only concern with simply stating that we intend to continue to grow with sustainability does not create an action plan on how to achieve this goal. I think this may lead us down a path of good intentions but limited execution. The world has changed a whole lot over this last decade. Each morning I log into my work computer having received several emails about the market and the economy, Silicon Valley Bank, and also ESG, environmental, social governance developments. The larger sum of American corporations have made this a goal of their continued growth with action plans in place on how to achieve those goals. As of January this year, we are well on our way to double digits for the number of cars on the road that are electric. Living in the midst of the 93,000 acres designated as the Montgomery County Agriculture Reserve gives us a unique responsibility to lead with emphasis on sustainability. As you all are aware, our master plan will shape the way our town continues to develop for the next 5 to 10 years plus. We have the opportunity to further engage how Sustainable Poolsville serves our community by acknowledging our group as a non-voting advisory board for all proposed future development in our town. The mandate of the Planning Commission members is to assess proposals that offer development ideas for the benefit of the local economy and community. How can we achieve this mandate without making it protocol to take the Sustainable Poolsville Committee into advisement? Let's make sustainability more than a vision, but put it into action by acknowledging the Poolsville Sustainable Committee as an advisory board to the Planning Commission in this comprehensive update. If we do not do this, we put ourselves and our fellow residents at risk of having unnecessary issues arise. Our board, the Poolsville Sustainable Board, is made up of eager residents with backgrounds that range from engineering, finance, and law. A few of us actually are careers in sustainability. So I'm confident we will be nothing short than an incredibly valuable asset in planning for the continued development of our town. Thank you. So I thought in New Jersey, in the state of New Jersey, it is now law that planning commissions have a member of the, be focused on sustainability. We as a town, I think of examples like, the Willard property, and recently there have been proposals, and no part of it had any thought of sustainability. I think you guys do incredible work. A lot of what I just said, I think you guys agree with and already know, obviously. And but to me, your plates are totally full, right? I mean, I had to make an active effort. I know that we did the conference call where I was on it for a few moments. But, you know, it's not, I don't think, possible, or it shouldn't be necessary for you all to be up on what's happening with sustainability, because there's constant changes. And I don't think it makes sense necessarily to define what the minimum standards will be for our town's development. I think as proposals come, you leverage us to kind of weigh in and give you our thoughts and opinions. Our most recent meeting, we had a group of parents speak about the shredded tires used in all the parks in town. And we all saw the fire. That was pretty crazy. That's one of the risks related to shredded tire. Other risks are it has lead. It's bad for our soil. You know, it can get in our water. There's a lot of problems associated with that. This group had looked into how much would it cost to replace it. It's $90,000 to replace the shredded tire in those playground areas. I use this as an example because had we been approached as a group, we may have been able to weigh in and say, we don't think that's the best solution. Here's some better ones. I don't know who made the decision to use that, but that would have been a perfect opportunity to show our value. Now we have a situation where a group of parents aren't thrilled about it, want to get it replaced, and it could cost the taxpayers of this town $90,000. So to me, that's, you know, we can avoid scenarios like that. And I think for us to informally say, as proposals come, you guys will engage with us. I think that's not enough, because there's a lot that's going to change in the next 5 to 10 years. And if we formally state in our plan that we will be, you know, you guys will come to us and allow us to give you our, you know, advise on the best way forward with sustainability in mind, I think it will be a huge positive. So, you know, I'm on this committee. I've been on it now for 3+ years, and I'm always thinking, how can I maximize what I'm helping the cause with? And when I knew that the master plan, the comprehensive plan, was up for, you know, renewal, or however you want to say it, and I thought, well, what better way than to have us, one, acknowledged, and then actually acknowledged as an advisory board to you all. So that's why I'm here today, and I guess, do you have thoughts or questions about all of that?
So we have a vacancy coming up.
Yes.
Would it make sense, you know how we have a commissioner liaison? Would it make sense to have
Absolutely.
one of the spots be a liaison?
That to me is the ideal scenario. I feel like, you know, you ask for, I figured I'd start with this, but I think that makes perfect sense, is to have our chair, which is Don Street, you know, be that individual, if he agrees to it, or, you know, one of our other members, but
The only thing I'll mention is that we don't decide the makeup of this board. It's the commissioners that do.
I understand.
So, I mean, we can make a recommendation, but it's not truly our decision. We could tell the commissioners what we think would be good, but we can't make that call. And they certainly have the right to compose it however they see fit. But I'm going back to your original proposal or idea, suggestion. Wade, is that something we have an ability to do to even build? No, I didn't think so.
I'll
Thank
step
you.
in here for a second. So the sustainable board is a board that represents and advises all boards, just like the Parks Board does. So we'll take the rubberized mulch stuff. That came from an advisory board, which is the Parks Board, to the commissioners. I mean, that's something you guys don't even deal with anyways.
But we
How do we
should.
collaborate better may be the better question to get everybody involved in it. Just like we just had our budget work session and our other, you know, our budget's out there now. Really nothing in there that's gonna be contentious as far as sustainability goes, maybe the trash contract. But then we
Well-
took advice from them, that they came and they testified to the commissioner, so they are an advisory to all boards, and maybe just having that recognition and better collaboration.
Well, for one, I'd say other towns have this, what I'm talking about, in place. New Jersey as a state, it's a requirement. So it is absolutely a possibility. Wade, and I hear what you're saying, but that was through our own efforts to be involved with the trash situation and the dual stream recycling. That was our effort to do that. So,
Exactly why we created the board.
right, that's true, but if we had been able to weigh in about the shredded tires, that could have been avoided. And because it's not formally stated in our comprehensive plan to engage us for all, and you're right, there are gonna be certain instances where it's pretty limited what we may have to offer, but if it's formally stated, then we can at least provide an opinion. And I think that matters. And in the next 5 to 10 years, there are massive changes happening, like I talked about. And for us to sleep on the fact that the Willard property is eventually gonna get developed, and if we aren't explicitly stating in the comprehensive plan that you all are gonna come and get advice from the sustainable board, it's gonna put us at risk for the scenario where there was no plan or thought about sustainability. And I've made a lot of effort to come here, to be on that conference call, to meet with Larry Marcus. And I know we all have our full plate. And I'm not saying that that's, anyone's fault, but it would simplify the process if it was a required step to have us involved and to say, here's the proposed development or whatever. Do you guys have any thoughts or opinions? That's all I'm saying. To formally put that in the master plan. We didn't exist in 2011, but we do now. And we're only gonna be through one cycle where it's really our grand entrance. After this, we've existed through one master plan update. So, in 5 or 10 years, when the next update happens, I think the world's gonna look a lot different. And there may have been development in our town where, had we been engaged with, we may have been able to help the cause and have it happen in the right way. So, I mean, I do think it's not, it's something worth exploring with the commissioners. I mean, and with you all and talking about. I don't think we should say is it not a possibility legally? I mean, you said it's not an option. What makes you say that with such conviction?
No, I'm saying that an option just to have the seed that they have an opportunity to act as advisory to all boards. It should say that in there, actually. Not just, you can't be the tail wagging the dog with the planning commission. They are controlled by state authority, just like you said, New Jersey. New Jersey was the lead on starting the whole sustainable program in Maryland.
It's now an element.
They've been leaders for a long time.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt, sorry.
You're fine, go for it.
Oh, no, you're right. I mean, New Jersey's made it an element of their comprehensive plans, and it's not in the state of Maryland a requirement, but we are unique with where we sit. We sit, in the midst of the 93,000 acres that is the Montgomery County Ag Reserve, and I think we need to lead from here by taking actions that make a tremendous amount of sense. I mean, again, every morning, ESG emails are all over my email box. Like, I'm not talking about, and I'm not asking for anything absurd other than state in the plan that, sure, all boards take us into advisement, but that it actually needs to happen. And it's not like, okay, well, maybe the Sustainable Poolsville group will give their opinion about X or Y, but not Z. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to get in front of.
No, I get it, and this all going through my head, but really, it's codified that the Parks Board, like development plans, will be forwarded to the Parks Board for review. and I don't know if I mean, I guess you put something in the plan, in the comp plan. Comp plan is a guidance tool. It's not really a tool to make anything happen. It's just a guidance tool.
I agree, it's a guidance tool. And if in our vision statement, we intend for, whatever we do to be sustainable, I think it would be good to also define how we intend to do that. Because it sounds great in the vision plan. It sounds, like, sure, that sounds, but how are we actually going to execute on that idea? Because as it stands.
That's what I'm thinking. I agree. Yeah.
Because my big thing, Wade, is, a lot of mutual funds say they're ESG and it's garbage. They're just marketing tools. And I don't think anyone in this room or this town thinks that we call ourselves sustainable for the sake of, attracting prospective home buyers and for it to look good. But the only way I think we can truly show that there's, our group is taking our actions to maintain the certification. But to actually acknowledge our existence and to say we will be taken into advisement in the master plan, I think would be a big positive. And it would ensure that when the Willard property is developed, that we're engaged and that there doesn't, come a time where it's not even a consideration or it's a consideration after the fact. So that's kind of what.
This actually would be for that particular project.
What's that?
That's what it would be for this particular project. They've already gone through the process and they are on their way.
Okay, but you get, okay, well,
I understand exactly what
we
you're
were
saying.
never engaged.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what would be our next steps forward from here to kind of, make this, any version of this happen.
Can I say something?
Yes.
It sounds like we're all on the same page here. Personally, I have no problem with putting something about Sustainable Poolsville as like an advisory committee and like things get bounced by them. But it sounds like the rub is like we have to figure out how we can include them better. And that's maybe something for another time. But I do think Danny's right that there would be some benefit to like us bouncing stuff off of them. We don't have to like take their recommendation, but like, it makes sense that we at least, engage them and find out what they have to say.
And perhaps, Kevin, what you said is, sure, it's ultimately the commissioner's decision around who becomes that new, member of your board, but maybe you guys support the idea that it be somebody from Sustainable Poolsville. If you could do that, I think that would be helpful in our cause, and maybe that would be a great step forward in what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, in that way, you don't throw another process or another hoop for developers to go through. Like, they don't have to sit before Sustainable Poolsville Committee and sit before the parks and sit before. If there's someone on this board from the Sustainable Poolsville, that can be done naturally. That collaboration.
Absolutely.
I feel like what I'm hearing though is like somebody from Sustainable Pools will need to sit on every board then.
Yeah, so I
I don't know that that's really feasible in a lot of, I don't know.
Yeah,
Well-
and I'm thinking we need to figure out nuts and bolts, right? But the idea that we want to decide on tonight, I think, is that we want to include Sustainable Pools in the comprehensive plan. And we want to establish some sort of advisory relationship, okay? I don't think we're going to work it through tonight.
Right,
And we
yeah.
got a packed agenda. I think it would do us all some good to think about how we might want to implement this and regroup in a month.
Sounds good.
And, something else to throw out there to think about is having another person on the board that doesn't vote. So it's appointed by the Sustainable Poolsville, who they want to come to the meeting and sit in the meeting and have their input, but we still maintain our votes. That's your formal input, and then they're not voting, and they don't have to be appointed by the commissioners.
Yeah, that's,
That would have to be approved by the commissioners. but
Sure.
Anyway,
I think that's.
need to consider all those things. And I just throw it out there, not because I think it's the best idea, but just because it's another idea.
And I just wanted to say too, like I know before we start our meetings, we always ask for staff or commissioner updates. And that's how we find out what's happening on other boards every time. So we just find out that, and if there's something that one of us wants to attend, we can go to another board meeting or watch the other board meeting. Many of us watch multiple board meetings, especially the parks, if they're voting on something that has to do with one of our plans. So does that happen for yours? Do you have a commissioner who sits on your board?
We do, Ed Reed, and the only thing I would say with what you're saying is there's a difference between engaging by knowing what's going on and being a part of the equation because the master plan states we are. And I get the parks and boards, I mean, to your point, you're saying we should be on all of them. Well, I mean, the planning commission is who works through updating the comp plan to then send it to the commissioners. That's a massive role in our town. And so from my standpoint, that would be how we could maximize our input and our efforts. I mean, that was kind of my line of thinking. I talked it over with Mike from Sustainable Maryland at length. He loves the idea. He says multiple communities are doing exactly what I'm talking about. I think that's a reasonable objection, but I think for the sake of, doing all the things I've talked about, having us maybe exist as Brian said could be a great idea, or even perhaps us having our one candidate from our board apply to be on the planning commission, and you guys offer your support in that, and then obviously ultimately it's up to the commissioners, but that will help our cause. If we have to go about it a different way. But I agree, brainstorming, packed agenda tonight, I just laid an idea out there, and I do look forward to us continuing this conversation very much.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that, I don't know how we do it, but I think there needs to be more like interaction and more communication and stuff. And I don't know how we get there at this point, but that's something to think about, something that maybe staff can think about and the commissioners can discuss at a future meeting or something like that. But I think you're right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I guess I'm confused because by my count, Sustainable Poolsville has been in front of this committee for the comprehensive plan. This is the third time, maybe the fourth. And there's definitely been conversations between Sustainable Poolsville and Wallace Montgomery. And so I'm confused as to why there's a need for a dedicated seat at the table, which is what I hear. Hold on, I'm not finished. I'm confused as to why there's a need for a dedicated seat at the table when Poolsville's Sustainable Committee has already demonstrated at multiple times more than any other source of input beyond streets and parks, beyond WUMCO, beyond Poolsville Green, beyond Historical Medley, beyond any society by more than double to give input on this particular process. So while I hear you saying that you want more input, I'm saying we are getting your input. We hear it loud and clear. It is incorporated into the work. So I'm not sure how having a dedicated seat would be more than what we already see today.
Lexi, I think he wants to ensure that like it's enshrined, it's written into the master plan that like this is a process that we're going to follow. However that is, that we're going to engage them for decisions. We're going to engage them, about stuff. Like I think he would agree with you probably that like they've had plenty of input. That's not the problem. But they want to be included in the comprehensive plan.
Well, and
Am I right?
I will say this, Lexi. There's not always going to. That has all happened. Not to take credit, my committee members are incredible. I mean, obviously they are a part of the dual stream recycling effort. I mean, they're all over the place. But this specifically has been my agenda, and I've been the one calling Larry, reaching out to get involved in different ways. It has been through a lot of effort from my part to get on the agenda. And I'm just saying, there shouldn't be so much effort to be, it should just be a natural part of the equation. Because without those efforts, we probably, to your point, would have been much more limited like the other groups. But we weren't, because I made a lot of effort to make sure that we were here tonight, that we were on that first call, and that I met with Larry 3 or 4 times, either in person or through the phone. Because I realize how unique this update is. It's the first time we've updated our plan since Sustainable Poolsville came to be. And no time like this will happen again. So it's critically important for us to maximize what happens in this update. So I hear what you're saying, but I don't know that there's always gonna be somebody pushing to have involvement and hopefully get us added to the comp plan like I have. I hope
I-
that's a reason, you know.
I just want to say, I feel like your use of the word limited is limited engagement as like the other organizations is misleading because we reached out to every organization in town to get their input. We asked for them to provide feedback in a survey. We asked Wallace Montgomery to reach out to them all. So we have engaged every group. Now, I understand what you're saying, that you have gotten to do more because you've reached out. But I just wanted to make sure that we're very clear that we have reached out personally. We've had town staff reach out, and then we had Wallace Montgomery reach out to every organization in town. There is not a limited, or at any point, was there any organization that we would not take additional feedback from? Because this is a town-generated comprehensive plan. This is not us
For
running
sure.
a show for it. So I want to make sure that everyone understands that there was no, at any point, did we limit anyone's access to being able to give feedback to this process.
Amanda, I totally get that.
Yeah, okay.
I get that, and I was just kind of responding
Absolutely.
to what,
And I feel
Lexi
like,
said.
Lexi, I'm feeling like what you're saying is that you want it in the comprehensive plan. Sustainable Poolsville would like it in the comprehensive plan, that as we move forward with projects, that there's always a time that we run it by Sustainable Poolsville, or somebody from Sustainable Poolsville as part of our decision-making for every decision moving forward. And that's what they want in the comprehensive plan, not necessarily
That
more
is not what I
input
heard,
to
so
the
thank you.
comprehensive
Is
plan.
that
Is
a
that what,
clarification?
is that what you were talking about?
correct. You take us into
Yes.
advisement for any
That's,
proposals.
that's what the discussion
Okay,
is.
I was seeing something different. I heard something different.
Okay, sorry. I know I've said a lot. Sorry, Amanda, go ahead.
For what you were saying, Brian, that this is not going to get solved tonight in terms of figuring out how that forward thinking of involving Sustainable Poolsville goes. But
I think it's a good point, and I think it needs to be talked about. But
yes,
I agree with you.
Well, I really appreciate you all hearing me out, and I know you guys have had a lot going on with this, so thank you all so much. And Kevin, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Danny. Thanks for all the work.
Thanks, Danny.
You
Yeah,
guys do
thanks,
great
guys.
work.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Tell Don we missed him.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
All right, take care.
So now, and wait, I do think we want to have them back next month
Yeah.
if they can make it.
Yeah, we could have them come back and we'll put that on the agenda and we can discuss what we,
And then we move down to old
exactly
business,
what we want that item
which
to
would
be.
be next to
inside.
comprehensive plan,
So-
which might be
Yeah,
able
we'll
to.
email about it.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's perfect.
I
All
have
right.
to go to the PA board, so I'm sorry to talk around.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bricken property, preliminary plan.
Just for my education.
Did you circulate the concept plan approval, or not approval with the, comments, feedback, with any?
Yeah, that was in John's letter, he included that feedback in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for my information, I haven't presented to you guys since the new technology's been here. Should I refer to the TV? Should I refer to the prints? How should I communicate with you guys?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it up, just give me 1 second.
Okay, and is your TV the same as his?
Yeah, it's exactly.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Josh Mazel from Benning and Associates. We're a local Montgomery County land planning firm that's been around since the 70s. I also am Kevin's neighbor, and I live on Soper Street at 17505 Soper Street. With me is Mr. Frank Jameson.
Good evening.
This is our third time back to the board. We've been here twice. You guys have given us a lot of positive feedback. We've addressed a lot of your feedback. And what the intention is tonight is to, obviously, we can't get plan approval tonight, we know that. But at this point, we pretty much have stormwater management squared away, and we want to push forward with fire and rescue and all that. So we need to figure out if the road system is the way you guys like it, and houses and all that. That's my big goal for the evening, to get out of here with that. And then I have a couple issues I'd like to talk to you guys about to address and resolve some problems. What would be the best way to do this tonight? Do you want me to talk about the whole subdivision? I mean, it's been like 2 or 3 years since you guys have seen me. I don't know if you even remember this.
Last time we were in front of you was March of 2021. So,
Wow, 2 years already.
Yeah, when that gentleman talked about the timelines, they really,
Yeah.
when I did the first subdivision for Frank over at Westerly that's finally getting almost constructed, it was amazing how many times I had to come back to you guys because State Highway was hung up or someone else was hung up. And they stopped delineating wetlands for a while, DNR, or not DNR, the wetland people, Corps of Engineers. So
yeah.
for a while, it got pushed down the road. So what we have here is, we started with a single lot subdivision. We had pretty straight roads. We had 74 lots. We brought it in. We got comments from you guys that you wanted the reduction in lots. You wanted more curvilinear roads. You wanted us to get away from panhandles. So what we've ended up with is we have a 65 lot proposal in front of you. We've reduced the number of direct access from West Willard Road from 14 to 9. We've also gotten rid of a lot of the pipe stems by creating the additional cul-de-sacs, and we brought that number down from 11 to 5. We've gotten John's comments. There's some engineering stuff we know we need to address, and we're happy to do that. We don't have a problem with it. We just need to know if you guys are supportive of this plan and if we can move forward. Would you guys like me to present the plan?
I don't think I need to see anything. If you want to point out where maybe you took some pipe stems away and the driveways that were
I did
removed.
want to mention, there are a couple things that John.
Just for reference.
Pointed out in his letter, and in the plan, I don't know how well you can see it or not. We're going to relocate a sewer line on this property out to Willard Road, because we have one.
Show us down here.
If you wouldn't mind.
Sewer line.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna move that out to the road.
Oh, too late. Okay.
I'm gonna help you out.
How about on that
Go
one?
on, big
big one.
board over there.
There we go.
you go.
So there's a sewer line that's coming right here,
Okay.
right there. We're gonna relocate that sewer line out to the public street so that when the town needs to work on any sewer line, they are in the public right of way and not on private property, which would make it very, very difficult for accessibility. So that's one thing we're gonna have to move. We know that. There was a question about the pump station that has to be put on. Currently, we have that pump station approximately right here. But we, it's pliable, that can move. We're gonna work with John, come up with the right location for that. We put it on the plan, you'll see it in the top. Again, it's about right in here. That's pliable, that can move. That depends on really working with John and coming up with the right location for that. Something I did want to talk to you all about that I was a little confused on is the access to the,
We have,
Stony Spring?
we have sidewalks up and down the frontage of the property like you guys asked. You guys asked us to connect to the town trail system or the sidewalk system. I live in this town. I totally know what goes on. I went out on the Halloween thing and had a wonderful night. I was crossing the crosswalk up here, the town just installed, the lights were flashing, and I almost got hit. So I totally get safety and I get the concerns, it's big for me. What we didn't know, and we don't want to assume, is how do you want us to connect these two trail systems? The one option is to come back down along Westerly Road and then cross straight across to the trail system. But my concern is, you've moved really far away from the stop sign at that point, and people might be picking up some speed coming down the road. I'd like your guys' guidance to move it straight up here and connect it into the sidewalk right across there.
Yeah, you have a sidewalk coming out
Right here.
that the town put in, and it comes down to Westerly Avenue. And then it comes up Westerly Avenue. It have to be extended over to hit the one over at
Hey.
Stony Springs. The one at Westerly Grove.
You want to pull up the aerial on your computer? It'd be easier if we look at the existing
aerial.
Google map.
Yeah, Google Map and then.
Yeah, now this is what we were looking at yesterday. If you come down here, you'll see where the town already put in where the lacrosse field is. See that right there, Kevin?
We have new
Yeah, that new sidewalk.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
So we weren't sure if you wanted connectivity here to come down or have a crosswalk come over. The problem with this is that you would have to come back over. The trail path is part of
he's
this
got it showing
sidewalk
up there.
on Westerly Grove, so that's already in place, the one at Westerly Grove.
You were saying, so, keep on pulling down,
Yeah, pull down,
it's the other way.
go north.
Yeah. So where
Farther,
A little bit further.
keep
So-
going.
Right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, now, go on the west side of West Willard Road, and we have to put a sidewalk in there.
We have to
right?
we have to put sidewalk down West Willard Road. We know
Now, our
that.
concern was at the intersection of Westerly Road and West Willard Road. If you come back going west on Westerly Road, you see where the trail hits, right? Our concern, maybe yours too, I don't know, was that if we came back and ran straight into the trail system off of Westerly Road, anybody coming south on Willard Road and then makes a right-hand turn onto Westerly Road may be at a speed that might be too fast for somebody. So we thought if we could come to the intersection of Westerly Road and West Willard Road, come over and hit the existing sidewalk there, that might eliminate a potential hazard.
I think that's the safest solution personally.
Yeah.
Professionally.
Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, otherwise you're ending up with a mid-block crossing. And we wanna try to avoid those as much as possible. And so the corner is the better solution to bring the trail, the sidewalk down, tie in.
yeah, I agree.
So they tie in right here?
yeah, so instead of coming to the end of the V,
Yeah, just go
and then they
all
would
the way.
cross at the intersection.
I remember you said you walked that road.
All the time.
Yeah, so what I wanna do is just come, we have to put, I'm sorry.
That's
Dan.
okay.
We have to put a sidewalk down the frontage of the property here.
Right.
I wanna come across at the intersection. I don't wanna bring it down here and come out here.
Yeah, that makes
My
sense.
concerns is people's gonna come in here and get up to speed and possibly strike a pedestrian.
Yeah,
So that's my big concern.
no, I think that is, that makes sense.
I want to do that in a stoplight.
We have to talk about it.
You know,
A street cop on there?
yeah,
I heard you're leaving the board.
yeah.
So where's the cross then to the Bodmer area? So,
Let me.
Bodmer will cross the road, become a four-way intersection.
Yeah,
We'll cross
so
right
we're
here.
coming out here, we're gonna put cross in. But the trail system that, when we did this project, we enlarged the sidewalk so that it was 6 feet and go down and hit the existing trail system there.
Yep.
yep,
On down, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's actually no sidewalk
So
there.
that, we didn't, the town at the time agreed with us that we didn't want to run it to the back there and come down. I can't remember the exact reason that we came up with that time, but we agreed to make a larger sidewalk a wider sidewalk, so that it would comport to the same requirements that the town had to have a 6-foot trail.
Yeah,
going down through there.
all the trails within the town, minimum are 6 feet.
I just
Yeah.
learning stuff every day.
So that's, that was a concern of ours right there, that we would have better visibility when somebody crosses that street. And plus, somebody coming out of the subdivision could cross the street and still hit that sidewalk going back into the middle of the town.
Yeah.
So that was one of my big concerns that we wanted to address with you guys. Everything else, we've pretty much taken your comments and changed our plan to match up with them.
So we went from 14 to 9 on the driveways on Willard Road?
Yes, sir.
And where were the other 5? It doesn't, it looks the same to me. I believe you, I'm having trouble
I
remembering.
have the old plan on a jump drive. We could, if I can give it to Niles, he can bring it up and we can look at it. I think it's called the files, the original. One second. I think that we had more lots to the north.
Okay.
The pump station's gonna be.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think I figured this out, Kevin, actually. Original, sir. We had more lots where the pump station is, and then we had 2 more lots that are part of that stick that I think Lexi totally talked about, and we rotated the houses and got the driveways off and got them on the interior roads.
Yeah, there's 3 right there, you're right.
Oh, you took the ones off of Westerly
We
Road.
took the roads off. We took them off here.
Yeah.
Rotated the
And then they gave
Yeah.
that, they gave that loop and then
Yeah.
made a mini cul-de-sac.
Yep. And then, this is where we lost, I think, Brian, you asked me where we lost all the pipe stems. All the
Right
pipe stems were lost
Yep.
through here.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And back over there.
The new plan is much nicer than the old plan.
I'm sorry.
I said the new plan is definitely much nicer than the old plan. There's a,
I think.
there's all you.
Did you have any questions, John, on any of this?
No, you got my letter with a
Yeah,
bunch of
yeah.
those comments, and then we'll work through all that.
Yeah, so we don't have any issue with John's comments. And like I was saying, we're just looking for the initial, okay, that we finally got this to the place where you guys are happy and we can move forward.
You'll put the other one back up.
Yeah, that's what I was
The
gonna
old
ask.
plan.
Not the old plan, the new plan.
The old plan makes Frank very happy.
He's got black and white plans. I think it's easier to see in black and white, but obviously we do color to make the board happy.
Yeah, the color's easier for us laymen to read.
I know last time we talked about considerations for
Somebody's,
I know we had talked about last time consideration for adding a rear loading garage
Yep.
instead of the front to eliminate almost. I think you could eliminate all of them then from loading onto to Willard there. Thoughts on that?
The reason we didn't do that is it's actually maybe threefold. It's that which I originally said, you guys, we're echoing the earlier subdivision and just mimicking that frontage up the road. But the better answer is, if we put that there, it has to be a fire and rescue access road. So what that means is it needs to be either one way, and it needs to be able to stand up to 80,000 pounds. Nobody can park on that. And then we have to increase the turning radiuses. So if we wanted to make it a 2-way road, it'd have to be 20 feet. And we're trying to get away from pervious areas, we're trying to have less of that and have more impervious areas. So from the design concept point, it really doesn't make sense to us, but I can understand that it's the planning commission's.
Yeah, I was like you, I wanted the rear loading, but the more I thought about the front loading, it'll help, I think it'll help calm traffic, because Willard is a speedway, down to the golf course.
We've talked about speed bumps and other calming devices. The speed bumps become a problem for our snowplow equipment and striking that thing. And we're just trying to make a solution that's best for our campus. That's what it comes down to.
You know, you made an interesting comment about speedway down through there. You know, my brother has, his main farm operation, across from where the golf course is.
Yeah.
And so it did come up, what would be, the right, tempering on that road? Whether it's rumble strips or speed humps. We thought, put a damn speed camera in. Statistically, apparently, that has the greatest effect over speed bumps and rumble strips, is that camera. I guess because it robs somebody of their money. But,
Yeah.
so I'm not really sure what the town would want there, but there should be something there.
Yeah.
We comment about this a lot because we're on that road a lot. And it's not so much the local traffic that we have an issue with, it's people coming out of the golf course.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's gonna get more and more crowded as
Yeah.
Crossvines
Right,
becomes
so
online.
what solution,
Yeah.
maybe it might be a combination of things. Proper signage always helps, but a physical impediment might work better. I don't know. We thought, hell, put a camera in and the town can make some money because the
Yeah.
town owns the road now.
Yes,
What-
but just to clarify, the speed cameras are controlled by the county, and that's by state law, and so, they're the ones who get the money on that front, but that's something we could talk to the county about, so.
Won't you all get some cost sharing out of that?
Yes, we do get cost sharing, that's part of the revenue sharing agreement with the county, but just for transportation and police service and things like that. That's what the policy is for. But I just want to clarify that it would be the county's decision whether to place the camera there. That's what I meant to qualify.
Does the new Bodmer intersection become a stop sign thing or just an open four-way? You know, because now Bodmer's crossing. Yeah.
Has to stop.
Do we have to consider those?
We'll look at that at the time, as we move forward. What, are you talking about going down West Willard? Would
Yeah,
that be-
at Willard and Bodmer,
would be
will
there-
that become?
Will there be a series of stop signs there? Just one. On Willard.
Because didn't we put one at Spur, at,
Well, if you, in my letter, I said we need to get the traffic analysis. We need to take, we're still in the process of chewing through that.
okay. But so we don't determine that.
Let me ask you something, since you all now own Willard Road, could you dictate what does go there, like the light stop signs, or does that have to be
Yeah,
approved by
that would be,
DOT?
no, that would be in that situation, that's ours. So speed humps, stop signs, rumble strips,
Traffic control devices.
all of those would be our jurisdiction there, yeah.
So,
And there's also gonna be,
I don't,
there's gonna be probably a host of things that are gonna take place out that way as the plan develops. We don't have a traffic control signal plan yet. We'll probably have, welcome to Poolsville type signs, that kind of thing coming in so that, it delineates a residential area. And also, I know it's a rural area right now, so people tend to drive fast through a rural area. Once subdivision work starts to take place and becomes developed, hopefully, the matrix will change, and at some point, just like we do for a speed hump study, we do a traffic study to determine if there's actually a speeding problem. A lot of times, what we found out through the studies is that people perceive there's a speeding problem, but there is not one.
So just recently, the commissioners adopted a speed hump policy, so that requires us to do studies before we put such devices in, but that can be part of this process, so that we can determine what is needed. But yes, often the case, people overestimate the prevailing speed, and so therefore,
I've studied
look
how
at that
fast I
stuff.
can go down that road, so I
Yeah.
know, I know the speedway.
Yeah, yeah.
I can make it down to the
Yeah.
golf course in 2 minutes.
Well, you won't be able to anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's,
Camera in there, if we've got it.
Yeah.
I think that the community itself going in would have a negative, or a speed deterrent, be a speed deterrent. So yeah, we have to put it in and see what the traffic's like after it's in and determine what the best mitigation measures are. I did want to ask, in your comments, John, you said, sorry, something about using the green, I can't find it now. Forest conservation areas, number 2, I believe, and stormwater discharge should not be considered for open uses space,
Right.
as they cannot be used for recreation development. And if that's the case with this plan, does that, are they gonna have to realign something to,
They may have to look at their comps, that's all.
what does comps mean?
Computations.
Okay. But in your opinion, there's no needed adjustment in lot size or anything to meet those requirements, it's just,
They've got to address that.
but they're asking us for approval to,
Not, just,
in concept, right?
yes, I guess, but the details obviously can and will move.
Right.
Going through the design process.
Thank you.
So,
Make sure everybody was aware of that.
I just wanted to bring up 2 other things. Is there a playground or park area?
We
Is that-
we don't have a playground. We felt with the newly constructed playground across the street, that just a financial contribution, as we would have to pay anyways, would be acceptable. But again, it's the pleasure of the board.
I think with 63 homes, that's something that would be, it's something that all of our neighborhoods, except for I think that I can think of one, which is mine, and I just like that strongly. Wish that I had a neighborhood with a playground.
Well, are you Elizabeth's Delight?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can walk to playgrounds, and there's a lot of things that are walkable, but we are the only neighborhood that I can think of without one. And I would, that's something that I think is really important, and 63 homes is enough homes that I think it warrants a playground. That's my personal opinion. But the other thing I wanted to just ask, I heard you say that you were keeping in, the flow with Stony Springs having driveways that enter onto Willard. I counted there are 9 total in Stony Springs, but they're not ever 9 together. At most, it's 4 that are together. This is 9 in a row.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any in Westerly Grove, which is directly across the street, that are coming out onto West Willard?
Just the main road.
I
'Cause
just
the
wonder
park.
if there's something about that, just the look of it, in terms of when I look at when I look at Stony Springs, just above in satellite, you're talking about, it looks like, it's 2 that don't load to there. Then there's 5 houses in a row, but only 3 actually load onto it. Is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is a 6. There's a 6 run. You're right. Which I wouldn't necessarily count. So 6, but I'm just wondering, is there a way, I don't know, to break that up somehow, or to, I don't know if that even matters. Just
We can't
another
do shared
thought.
driveways anymore in the town. That went south. I remember when the eye doctor had a conflict with his neighbors. I don't personally know of another way to solve that solution now.
I just want to reiterate that the more, it's, like, the more you have on the road, the better of a deterrent it's going to be for speed.
Yeah.
But I think about, like, even going up to Seneca Chase, right, which is right at the end, right before you get out of town. Is anybody going anywhere near the speed limit there? Right. No. Thank you, Mr. Hart. No one is going anywhere near the speed limit. You're talking about the other end of town where you're just at town limits again. I'm
Well,
just
remember,
saying
none of
that
the-
that's going to be tricky.
Yeah, I agree with Brian. I think this will slow the traffic.
Personally, I'd like to see some kind of like a study done or something so that we can anticipate this, so that before we build it, You know, like if we need to put traffic calming measures in or something like that, or they need to put traffic calming measures in, that we know that beforehand, know that now before we approve any plan so that, because on the back end is too late. Now you're putting like duct tape on something.
And that'll come
That'll be,
as part of the development plan. What they're looking for right now, my understanding is what they're looking for is conceptually, do you like the lot layouts? Not the details yet, but do you like the lot layouts? So they can go, they still have to go before the fire marshal and get permission from them. They still have an awful lot of work to do to get to a plan that's presentable. I guess the question becomes, the way I'm hearing it, is the board, the commissioners comfortable with the lot layout and the number of lots? Is there something that you would like to see different? We've heard some of the things that you'd like to see different and how they would be approached.
I have a quick question since I can't actually see that far. What are the lot sizes? Are they quarter? Are they half? Are
half
they?
acre zone.
They're all around the half. Okay.
The same as Stony Springs.
Is
that right?
Stony Springs was, three
What's
quarters.
what's Westerly Grove?
Yeah. What's Westerly Grove across the
that-
street?
Across the street, it was quarter acre.
That's
or
a third
third
acre.
So these will be bigger.
These would be big.
I really like all of the extra cul-de-sacs you guys added to get rid of almost all of the the extra driveways, the pipestone driveways right there. But there is one at the bottom corner below the one going down to the left. There are 3 in a row where there's 3 driveways very close. There's a house that sits back. I can't see what number it is from here at all.
You're talking
You're
about
almost
lot
there.
36.
Okay.
It's Lot
That's-
36.
That one still is I think that's the only spot. If you scroll up again, that's the only one that I saw that was very,
I think if you zoom in on them, those are separate driveways.
they are. I mean, 64 doesn't bother me as much because at least the other one loads from the other side. Maybe it's just switching the one to the right so that its driveway loads the other direction and it's not so close. I don't know. Yeah.
It
Driveways.
looks like there's a house in Seneca Chase. You know, where the sign for Seneca Chase is on Fisher Avenue. There's a corner lot, and then right next to that, there's a long driveway that sneaks a house behind it. That is the coolest, most hidden house, I think. So I don't mind that little hidden, because the way they landscaped around it, it's a neat looking.
Amanda, with the driveways and the
Can you pull up the aerial
garages,
map again?
you always tend to put that on the high side of the property so that the garage doesn't settle, you building it on hill and all that. That's just one of the,
Stop.
I guess, best management
straight down. You see
practices
it?
that we do as land planners.
Right
We
in-
always strive to get the garage on the high side.
So go straight down. You see it right there? Yeah. So go into that one. Can you bring that up? So,
What?
so across the street, in the other addition, it looks almost exactly like this to me. Is that there's this one hidden back there, and honestly, it's kind of a gem.
Yeah, that's what I was saying with Seneca Chase.
It
Same
really
thing.
is.
Yeah.
It's like this one little surprise back there, and
Yeah, that's the
it is
same.
appealing. Sort of.
Land planner, very happy with it.
Yeah,
I'm not smiling, I'm not saying anything.
I'll point out what looked to me,
Well, I agree. There should not be a lot of them.
No, there's-
Having like one tucked in behind or one like hidden is quite appealing overall.
That other driveway is on the other side.
Yeah.
So it's not
There's 3,
right
Yeah.
next to
Yeah.
each other.
I agree. There's a lot of pavement in that one, but yeah, that one hidden back there is not offensive.
Yes, put the driveway on the other side on 37.
I think what's happening with the other plan, if you can go back, the garages are on the high side, but we were able to get, do you see how the garage entrance is? You see it's wider to the north? We were able to get some separation there because the lots are so big. But again, it ends up, the garage is on the high side, and we're not
Can
putting
you
in
go back
fill.
to the plan?
On those littler lots, we'd have.
So
Josh,
if you-
reverse the house,
If you zoomed in,
the house is-
if 37 was flipped,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be an issue.
That's the best practices we try to stick to, but
Wait, say that again.
Can't,
The
why
high
can't you
side-
front load?
when we build garages, we try to keep them on existing soil. We don't try to put them on fill. When you put a garage on fill, you need to do a controlled fill or an engineered fill, which is them filling, going in and putting layers and layers and layers. Or stuff eventually fails, Kevin, because it's not compacted properly. So just a building industry standard is try to put the garage on the high side. Try.
okay.
If you guys hate it, we're happy to switch it, but
Right.
Learn something
but-
new.
that's,
So,
and that's what I try to do with you guys. I
Ju-
know that you guys are volunteers.
As a side note, when somebody comes in to build a house, it's probably not gonna look like a box like that. And it's also, they may ask for the model to be reversed. In other words, it's part of the process. It comes before us, we look at it, is there any problems in reversing it? The placement of the driveway up close to the house probably is not gonna be an issue for us to look at. We're more concerned about how it is going together in the, not the aesthetics end of things. We're just getting a house location survey comes in for zoning.
I just wanted to address your question about a park. We were planning to have passive park in the subdivision. We had this conversation before, and one of the things that came up about was the maintenance of the parks when we had one, a brand new one, right across the street that had been put in. So at that time, in another subdivision we did where the townhouses are, we put in a passive park there, which is benches and maybe a gazebo, things like that. But not something that would have high maintenance or a lot of work that would have to be done by the town. Because once that area is dedicated, it's the town's responsibility to pay for the maintenance of it.
And the builder didn't end up doing anything on the townhouses where he had it. We have the stick that faces out to town and the stick that goes against the elementary school. The green space in that corner that abuts the elementary school was like, I called it a passive recreation zone, and I think that benches were proposed, John, but geez, that was a long time ago. Oh, there were benches.
Yeah, there may still be.
hey, Niles, if we were to ask them to put like a kid's playground in, that's redundant, but yeah, a kid's park, does the town have the resources to take care of something like that? I mean, it doesn't seem like to me like it's that
We
much.
currently do for all the other playgrounds in
Right.
town. I don't think it's necessarily a larger, I mean, obviously, there's some additional costs, some additional work that needs to be done, but I don't think it's necessarily prohibitive. You know, it's, yes, passive parks are cheaper and there's less maintenance, but off the top of my head, I wouldn't think that it would be prohibitive.
Okay.
Did you want to comment, Wade, or is that it?
No, you're fine. I think that, is right. I'm not sure exactly what passive park Frank has in mind, but, most every other subdivision we've ever approved has a top line of it.
All right. Thank you.
Meadowlark Manor doesn't have one either.
I just want to get the message, please speak into the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
It's,
Yeah, you're
it's,
just gonna need to pull.
just, yeah, bring it a little bit closer to you.
I don't know if I have anything to say anymore.
So guys, I personally would like to mull this over before we go any further, and like, I have more questions and things to think about. Could we kick this down the road 1 month and then like, give them the answers they need and come back with feedback in a month?
We can certainly do that.
Because I've been talking offline with Wade about some things, and I have some concerns, and I want to straighten those out before I go any further personally.
I think that makes sense. We didn't get the plan that long ago. I'd like to look through it more too. I mean, I'm looking at it as we're sitting here. I would like time to think about it.
Can we get explicitly like what you're looking for to move forward so that I understand what sort
All-
of criteria you need in
All I
order
was
to
looking
progress?
for is if the road systems and the lot orientations are acceptable for you guys. Because if we start going down the road and engineering this stuff and getting all the plans approved, and then we come back and you're like, well, we don't like this, we've just wasted a lot of money and done nothing except waste your time and waste Mr. Jameson's money.
I don't want to see you guys waste any money, that's for sure. Like, that's why,
All I
for
was
me,
looking
a
for
month would be helpful.
is if you guys are, and I'm not asking for approval, I'm just asking, I guess, for a nudge that you can move forward, and we're preliminary okay with this. We're not gonna ask for any major road changes at this point, and we can start going down the engineering road and meeting with the other parties and fire and rescue and working out all those things.
I feel like to me, I personally can't say that because I've shared I want at least a tot lot considered and on there, and that could change some configuration for you, and I would like to see that before I can say how I feel
It would
about,
just-
in general.
It would graphically be added for you, this is no big deal, ma'am, and I'm not being argumentative or anything at all. It would just be on one of the parcels that are dedicated to the town as open space. So there's 3 parcels, A, B, and C.
Or
Kevin, you
or
just
in
said
parcel B.
you're doing Indy 500 down that road, so.
So am I understanding that it would be just a matter of sticking a graphic on, say, parcel B? And saying, we're gonna put a tot lot there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It would just be a box and says tot lot right over parcel B.
So I want to give you guys good feedback, and like I said, I'd like to have 4 weeks to think about it and have you guys come back next month. That's my personal opinion, and I'd like to make a motion to that effect, that we table this for 1 month and then come back with the answers you need, and give you a good direction to go in. I understand you're in a hurry. You're trying to move this forward because it's been delayed a while, and I get that, and I want you guys to be able to move forward, and I don't want you to waste any money. So I just want to see 1 more month of deliberation before we give you the answer you need.
We have a motion on the floor.
Seconded.
All in favor? Yeah. Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed? I think I'm ready to say it's, conceptually it's fine, but I understand your concern, so.
Well, let me just let you, so, about the traffic calming part of it, and if we're gonna need to do a study, and if we're gonna need to ask them to do like certain things of the road, according to Wade, and he said I could quote him, if we give you approval tonight, then you start spending money, and then that gets more difficult to do, retroactively. So that's my concern, that, I wanna make sure that we're doing right by that road and make sure that whatever needs to be done to it gets done to it. That and I just would like more time to digest it. I would like to see the tot lot put on there, I know you say you just drop it in, but those are the things I'd like to see. So, but that's my big concern, is that I don't want you guys to start spending money, and then we tell you, hey, we really like you to do something with the road, and you're like, well, we've already done this or whatever, and so, this gets into legal things if we tell you, yes, you can, Does that make sense to everybody?
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you for clarifying that.
Do you have a specific location on the property that you would want a tot lot?
I like parcel B myself.
What's that?
I like the parcel B myself, and kind of in the middle and protected, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I don't have a thought for that particularly. I think it's relatively central to your homes. I think it makes sense there.
And you have the road study that we put together. And would that road study address some of the questions that Mr. Radigan has?
That's what I have to go through to see if it's.
Okay. I'm sorry, what you just say, you don't know if it has any?
Speed studies.
Okay, okay.
Did we do a speed thing for Wilshire? Did we do a traffic study on Wilshire?
Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep, thank you. We'll get this moving for you.
See you next week, is that what you said? Don't scare me that. Thank you very much.
We'd be happy to come back next week, but I doubt if it's this project.
You guys might not be here.
You won't be here,
Hey, hey Frank, can I ask you one question?
yeah. How much did he pay me?
It's what Mr. Schramm was offering us for the road. Wade, that's where the big money is?
Yeah,
Kevin Schramm Way was big money.
yeah. Like I thought Gary could name his new development Shramtown.
Schramville Mountains.
He didn't pay enough. How's that? He never paid enough.
I do believe that.
All right, moving on to old business. Wallace Montgomery Comprehensive Plan Update. I have exceeded my hourly limit, I apologize. Yeah.
So I got a little warning from Niles that you all had quite a lot on the agenda tonight. So I'll try to keep this short because, as you know, there's a lot. As I said last month, we're getting in kind of the meat of the plan process here. And we're also sending out some homework, or at least some background documents to review. So I think Niles is going to just pull up a quick PowerPoint. And
Before we get going,
sure, go ahead.
Sustainable pools, before we get too buried.
Yes.
Um,
Actually,
How do you see, how do you, I mean, we have a nice one-pager from him here, right? I mean,
Yeah.
where do we see this,
Yeah.
how's this gonna?
So there's two different things, I think. One is what they had submitted to us was their recommendations for the plan itself, which was not the discussion
Right.
tonight. So those things, as I addressed in my comments, a lot of them we're already doing, and so
Right.
we can put that into the relevant chapters,
Yep.
public facilities, things like that, as things we're doing and goals and objectives.
Yep.
What was discussed tonight, the question of how to engage in
Understood.
sustainable in the structure,
Yep.
that's a different
Yep.
conversation, which we can
And
come
I
back
wanna
with.
keep it to the plan.
Yeah,
And is there a way in the plan to highlight that we had some feedback, and this is kind of, been advised by Sustainable Pools?
Yeah, so-
And should we, because we have all these other organizations that we're not really mentioning,
yeah.
in that way, should we? So those are my two thoughts about that. Can we and should we?
Well, we do talk about the other boards, right? So I think that can be listed as one of the other boards that's a town board, and then, I guess we can say it, advises other boards on sustainable efforts.
I do think it makes sense. Like, I think Danny had a point tonight, like that, that there's the possibility, and who knows if it, but like that, maybe they could have weighed in on like the rubber chips, which may or may not be the best alternative. I'm not saying anything about that. And other things like that, like impervious pavement, things like that, that they have something to contribute. So I think that like, it does make sense to include them, and it does make sense to like, give them a nod in the comp plan.
Right.
Maybe a bigger nod than the other organizations, because I think that they could actually like work with the town to save us money and like, like head off problems.
So I think that some of that, a lot of the decisions about the mulch and all of that were made in conjunction with the parks and streets, boards. So that's sort of, so there's a part of it that connects to all of the different boards, and that might be, again, the way that we address that. Either it be by saying Sustainable Poolsville advises all the other boards and gives recommendations, and we just say that, and then not in the plan, but elsewhere, we create a process by which either Sustainable Poolsville is required to have a liaison to each of the boards, or a member, or however the structure works. That, to me, is a separate conversation than the comprehensive plan. In the plan, we can say, this is the role of Sustainable Poolsville. Here's the things that they recommended, or here's, or we could create footnotes on everywhere that they have, done it. Something like that. Because some of the recommendations, like a lot of them are about town facilities, some of it is about growth, would go in different buckets. So we can look at that as we go through.
Can I ask about some clarification on this whole concept? Because, again, forgive me, so I came expecting Sustainable Poolsville to talk about this, and that was not the comments,
Yeah.
which is fine. And it sounded like there was a serious concern that Sustainable Poolsville, but I would argue that Parks and Recs and all of them have an issue with intercommunication between boards. The only way that we hear about technically what's going on with commissioners is through Martin. And really, it seems like Sustainable Poolsville's issue is not a planning and zoning issue, it's a commission issue. Like, there needs to be some way for the boards to communicate and to discuss things between each other. And then to come back to the comprehensive plan real quick, while I totally think that they have done a lot of work, like I said, I think we've seen them 3 times at least, plus private input or independent input. I would be hesitant to call them out especially privileged within our comprehensive plan, because that may come across as diminishing the other organizations. And this is a document that is to represent everyone, not a single entity. And so I want to put my 2 cents in on cautioning and hesitating, but also I really think, Martin, this is a commissioner issue in order to, not just for Sustainable Poolsville, but, Parks and Recs talks about things that may overlap with planning and zoning. And there is no input between the groups. When we get reports from you, it's with regards to our set and not necessarily with what other people are doing.
Right, this seems to me that this whole problem is basically just about communication. Like, and the way best to, everyone agrees they should be involved and they should have their input and their say, and we can listen to it and, do with what we want. But how do we get that input? What's the best way? Do we make sure we send them agendas all the time? Do we, at the very least, I think they should be able to review the documents and say, oh, wait a minute, you're doing this, and that could end up being a bad thing because of this, take that
Absolutely,
information,
but
do
again,
what
I
you
think
want
that's a
with it.
commissioner issue.
Yeah.
I'll say this, I think I want us to think about it and
Yeah.
understand what we want, because we have the ability to request something from the commissioners, say, hey, we want to do it this way, as opposed to us being told this is how it's going to go. So it is a commissioner's issue. We won't make the decision, but we may be able to help guide it. And again, specifically for tonight, just trying to see, and I think, Miles, you clarified it for me. This is going to be all over the place through the master plan. They're going to have their fingerprints on it. They're going to be identified as a key group that helped us come up with the plan, and I think I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that, too.
Okay, thank you. And we can pick up that other discussion if we want to tonight or some other time about how to incorporate them. Yeah.
Once it's dead, he's gone.
Once we get rid of the dead weight, right? Yeah. I'm sorry, the floor is yours.
Oh, that's okay. No,
Thank you.
I was listening closely to that discussion earlier, and I know that Danny's spoken with Larry on our team several times before I was involved, and I did have a long conversation with him, I think the day or two before the last planning commission meeting. So just what Niles was saying, as we would with any other input, especially, it's the sustainable work that they have, but also sustainability in general, right? We'll be looking at that. So if there's some ideas that need to be discussed in the plan, or recommendations that are in the plan, we would include them in draft form and then have you all discuss them and provide input. So anything that's in the plan, you would sign off on giving us input based on what we've drafted. So as would be with any kind of stakeholder input or plan documents, we're just going to review that and see, hey, look, this looks relevant to that, put it in there, and then you all can decide how you want to frame it if it's not already framed the way you would like it. So that's my thought. And we'll, coordinate with you as needed. So, again, for the interest of time, I'm going to try to do just three general things here, give you all an update on kind of where we are in the process and segueing from last month through this month, the next month. I'm going to talk through what went out not too long ago, the draft housing element, and then if there are any other questions or comments on what we've talked about previously, we'll always have some time available for that. And as I've said before, if there are some things that you want to send in, if you have markups, send them to Niles and he can forward to me, and we'll be documenting them throughout. And if you have questions, so on and so forth. So I recognize that, like I was saying, we're kind of in the meat of the process right now, the peak of it, and so there's a lot of information that we're going to be sharing with you, and I want to break it into as small pieces as possible so that everybody's understanding that and we get your input. But if we do take a little bit more time to have you kind of absorb that information, we'll work with you for that. So that's why I think I'll keep my comments kind of short tonight. It is, for the housing element, kind of a continuation of what we did last month, because if you recall, we pulled a lot of data in there. But before I do that, let me just generally speaking where we are. So right before the last meeting, we had a staff workshop where we updated the existing land use map. So what we have and what we'll be sharing with you, I think Niles will be sending out, is a link to that web app map, so you'll be able to go in and use it yourself. If you want, we can bring Nick back next month and he can kind of walk you through it. There is like a little document that kind of walks through how you use it, and I think much more so than when I got started in planning or even 10 years ago, a lot of these things, especially if people are always on the computer, are pretty user friendly, and you may have used some maps. I mean, with the COVID pandemic, a lot of these dashboards were starting to be common and people were just using data and looking at maps. So it's very similar to that.
When do we expect the link to come out?
It'll be tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay.
Yeah.
So give us a couple of weeks and we'll make a decision. If we need some help.
Yeah,
after
let
a
me
couple of
know
weeks,
if you're not, and we'll, if you need it.
Yep.
And if you want to have specific questions in the meantime, you can always reach out to us and we
Yep.
can walk you through it. So there's that piece. So that'll be going out. And I think Niles had already sent out some background information about housing planning in Maryland based on the guidance from MDP as well as the site from Montgomery County. That's information that I've been using to draft these plan elements here the last few months, and the input that we've gotten in review from MDP. I mentioned that last month. So you don't need to look at it, but if you are interested, there's a lot of good resources out there, and it will give you a little bit more background as to why we're doing it the way we are, because as you all have mentioned, and it actually, Martin, before the meeting started, we were having a little conversation, this element wasn't part of the last plan, so it's new information. And as I mentioned, and I'll reiterate as we go through this, I'm using based on all this guidance, I'm kind of coming up with kind of a template for what needs to be in there, anticipating what questions will come up from the review, both at the county and the state level. So the format we're using is based on all of that guidance. So you don't have to look at it, but you may want to. And if you have questions about that, let me know. So then, depending on how far we get and what you all want to do, what we're going to be doing, I think next month or certainly very soon, we'll be taking the data from the land use layer and creating the information that's necessary to draft the growth element and the water resources element. So we're starting to work on that. And in the meantime, been working on this housing element. So we had another staff workshop with Niles and Wade about a week and a half ago, where I shared this a draft of, and if you want to move forward, okay, thanks. Kind of where we are with the goals and objectives. And as I think I've said before, these are really, the goals and objectives are what we're trying to accomplish here. And then the objectives and action items basically go in the implementation chapter. So those are the kind of actions that would be followed through. So this is just a copy from last month, and if you look in the PowerPoint, I'm not going to go through all the data, but we included it again, and it's actually from the document, so it all matches up. But if you have any questions, we can go through it, but it's just there for your reference. So the key here is that we're pulling data from the census, the American Community Survey. We're integrating that with the county level planning. We're also addressing affordable housing for low income and workforce households, which is required, and then there's the new requirement on the fair housing. Now, as I've said, MDP is in the process of providing some guidance to all of the jurisdictions in the state that are doing planning. That's not completed yet. They are open to having a call with us to kind of discuss where we are with Poolsville and where they are. So I've suggested now's a way we may be doing that in the next couple of weeks, just to update that. Because it's hard to do exactly what the analysis is without like some kind of template about how to do it. And as I said before, we just are completing a plan in Aberdeen where we kind of punted that issue to an action item. So depending on where we are, that may be where we end up here, or we will be able to collaborate with the state through the process. So next slide. So just to pull forward, if you recall, we did have a set of goals and objectives last time, which were kind of general based on our, I think, early work with you all and the stakeholder group and the survey information about goals and objectives. So what I've done is, in fact, if you want, I can send out also a one-pager which just has the goals and objectives in it. That's actually in the document itself, but kind of what I've used. So we've added to it, basically. The first couple bullets, which are number 1, and if you have the document open, number 2, these are carrying forward what we started with. And I know there were some questions and comments about that the last couple times we've met. And so just kind of carrying that forward, because it's very general, I think, in terms of what we're trying to do with housing, provide a variety of safe, quality housing choices that are affordable and accessible to households at all ages and abilities. So that's kind of a general statement and goal, and then we can talk about some of the objectives that fall under that. So that's really just carrying forward what we've shared previously, and Niles, if you forwarded it, I just have, I think, one bullet on each. So they're kind of numbered now. So with the goal being the number, and then the bullets being kind of the objective. So that's the format we're putting it in. So again, this is carrying forward from last time as well, supporting the ability of town residents to remain in Poolsville by maintaining a range of housing options to enable households to transition to units best suited to meet their needs. Okay, and then there's the other elements that we talked about last time. So again, we've kind of been over that. So let me move in then to what we're kind of also adding in here. And so this is based on, like I was saying, and if you want, we can go back through the data again, but based on what we're trying to get to within the housing element itself. So this goal is identify, evaluate, and analyze current and future housing needs and trends. So this is that we know what the census and the American Community Survey show us, but the more that we can work with the county and the state to continue to collect and analyze that data, as we move past the plan and, in future years, you'll be able to kind of track what's going on, both within and we understand, as we've talked about a lot, Poolsville is a village. It's got its own kind of community character. We're not anticipating a lot of growth, and so consequently, the housing stock is going to age and evolve slowly, and there will be some projects coming online, but obviously it's not going to be a growth center, for example, and it's not envisioned that way in the county. So a lot of what's going to happen in terms of growth over the time period is going to happen in the county. So we just want to make sure that we're kind of accounting for that interaction. So we're fortunate in Maryland in the sense that there's a lot of activity going on at the state level in particular, as I was saying, with mapping, to collect this data and information and actually analyze it and put it on data dashboards and GIS platforms. So there is an active project at the Maryland Department of Planning to create kind of this building permit system to track it and then also map it. And so what a lot of these things are ways of just integrating what probably the town's already doing with what's happening at the county and state level, so that you provide the data in a form and share it with the county and state, and then they can provide all the information back to you easily, and then you have that information at your fingertips, basically. So that's the idea with these things. And again, you all, and we're still kind of in the review process with staff as well to just make sure whatever we're talking about here fits with where the town exactly is. So, again, if you look at the bullets here, creating a housing inventory of existing conditions, I mean, again, that's, I don't know to the extent that that exists, but it can be kind of a template. Tracking occupancy for new housing developments, tracking and monitoring residential projects and building permits, coordinating with the county and MDP on that permit project that I was talking about, because again, it's a little bit of work, maybe, but then there's a lot of benefit, because then you'll be able, I mean, you won't even need a consultant. You'll be able to do it at staff level to see that. And then work with local and county elected officials and regional organizations to identify those needs, including the need for housing for all age groups to support aging in place, which is really what that other earlier objective talked about. So to move on, and if you have any questions at any time, I'm just going to present this to you all, and I understand you kind of need to absorb it, read through it. If you have questions later, again, we can come back to it next month, and then we can talk about it in more detail. But this is just FYI for you, knowing that it's after 8 o'clock at night on a Wednesday, a cold March night, and very windy, very biting wind here tonight. So again, identify incentives for the improvement or redevelopment of housing. And again, this is pretty general and often is something that involves collaboration with the county and the state. You know, at MDP, I was actually part of the DHCD funding program review. And so throughout the state, community legacy funds are available for facade improvements, residential renovations, et cetera, grants and other funding opportunities for low and moderate income residents, kind of getting to that affordable housing element that we're talking about, and continuing to engage with nonprofit organizations to assist in the rehabilitation of dilapidated or older housing stock. So these are kind of a starting point, and again, if you all have other ideas or specific things you would like us to add in or even take out, absolutely love to get your input on that. But this is kind of what we're looking for in terms of a housing element. So then the next one, it's just a few more. So there's a lot here, but again, that's kind of the way we're getting the direction for this. So identifying substandard dwellings and develop a plan for action to improve them. So the town does have a livability code. Some of it is, I think, administered through the county and monitored there. So, looking at the livability code requirements and amending the minimum standards if it's needed, exploring establishing a rental registration program if you would like to do that, update the property maintenance code or adopt the International Property Maintenance Code to address blighted and vacant housing and building issues, and encouraging efforts to maintain the quality and appearance of individual properties to help retain property values. Again, these are pretty general, but, I think valid. So again, think about it, and we can talk about it if you want to amend that or add to that list. Then moving forward here, sorry, if I'm going too fast, let me know. And again, I realize there's a lot here to absorb. So to continue to identify opportunities to provide equity in housing and affordable housing opportunities in the town. So like I'm saying, we're required to address that through the plan, work to ensure a diversity of housing types, both rental and ownership opportunities are available to serve all ages and income levels, explore opportunities to preserve historical and architectural character and promote the rehabilitation and reuse of existing structures where that's feasible, seeking partners and funding to increase the supply of housing for the senior population, including developments that support aging in place. And again, a lot of this I think relevant to the town, but if we want to think about that in a more regional context as well, we can do that. Support affordable housing opportunities that are accessible to the entire population without compromising the quality of residential neighborhoods. Where's that balance there? Support housing projects that provide a mix of housing to serve a mix of income levels and integrating traditional market housing with affordable housing opportunities, and look for opportunities to encourage and incentivize affordable housing, including multifamily housing. So I'm not going to go back over the data again, but if you go back through the element, or if you want to look through the PowerPoint, that's really the basis for it, and it shows you where the town is relative to the county and the state. And I don't think we're too surprised. I mean, I think everybody kind of recognizes where Poolsville is, and the data kind of represents that. Okay, so just a couple more here. So, continue to identify opportunities, provide housing to support workforce housing needs. And we talked a little bit about this with Wade and Niles, working closely with existing employers and commercial and industrial developments to identify the workforce needs and housing available for employees. So is that going to be a big issue? I don't know, but it's just making sure the lines of communication are open, and it probably already is happening to some degree, right? Sharing information with local businesses about the type of housing available in the town. So that's just, again, we're moving, as I've talked about a lot as a consultant, both at the state, everybody's so used to having their phone and just having data available. So even in the housing realm, that's more and more the case, that this information is just readily available. And so to the extent that the town knows that it exists and thinks about how to utilize those tools, that those are just ways of thinking. That's the kind of the modernization of some of this that's occurred and is occurring right now. And like I said, a lot of it's happening at the state level, where a lot of the census and ACS information is being put onto dashboards. And so even between plans, these are kind of snapshots, every 10 or 15 years when you're updating the plan. But in the meantime, you can track data utilizing these dashboards. So thinking about that as well. Now, this next one, I'll say, is kind of a placeholder for now, because we are required to address the fair housing issue. But at this point, we don't have that direction yet. So this is what I worked out with MDP for Aberdeen, and I've been in communication with them since then, and we can clarify that with them directly. And again, once this plan is done, we will be putting it to state for its review. So we're going to get a comment on this one way or another, whether like, hey, great job for doing this, or hey, there's a little bit of a gap because you haven't completed the analysis, or something in between. But I just want to put that in there kind of as a placeholder for now, because we know we need to address it. So if we don't, we will. If we can, we will. That's kind of where we are with that. And then homelessness in the town, I don't know if it's a big issue. Again, this is something that there are agencies, organizations that do quantify homelessness and what's going on. And again, this is also a little bit of a placeholder, in the sense that if we don't have it in there, they're going to say, hey, you haven't addressed homelessness. And this is really just collaborating with, often, I mean, again, I don't know, we haven't delved into it too much, and maybe not a big issue here, but it is elsewhere, and certainly is within the county and within the state. So, making sure that from a planning standpoint, that collaboration is going on. And often, in addition to supporting the agencies that are working on it, a lot of it's data and quantification. Okay, what's going on? Are there problem areas? Do we, are actions actually needed, et cetera, et cetera. So if it were more of an issue, we could add more information on that and collaborate as well. I haven't spent too much time on it yet, but we'll double check that as we finalize the document. So that's the kind of the guts of it, in addition to the data that we shared most of last time. So if you all want to look at this and look at the background, and hopefully your eyes aren't glazing over too much on this right now, knowing it's late. Please review, provide comments, questions, edits, etc., and we will review them and talk about them next time. And this just, this bullet, I think, also was from last time, which is just specifically about the fair housing component. So very aware of it. We may be able to collaborate specifically, because Poolsville is a somewhat unique community, as you know, within the state, as a very small jurisdiction within a very growth-managed county. So how do we actually address that in with the requirements? It's a little bit of an outlier that way. So I think will be useful for us to have that conversation with MDP as they finalize the guidance, if not work with them to figure out how to best apply it in a situation like this. With that, I don't know if with the next bullet, if you want to, are the data. Okay. Right. Right. So, again, I don't want to overload you, but I recognize, we're going to get into a lot of more technical stuff and data through the next few chapters. That's just the nature of it. And we'll also be talking more about the land use element and the kind of, I think we shared last time the existing land use layer. I think I'm looking at John and Niles, and I would be looking at Wade if I saw this picture on the screen. Again, for the future land use, some of it we just noted as TBD, to be
Yep.
determined. So we'll be having some conversation with you all and sharing that just to make sure that that's actually reflecting what your desire and goals are for those properties. And we'll probably end up talking specifically about the whole redevelopment issue, also specifically once we have that land use data for you. So anyway, so I apologize for giving you a lot of homework, but there's no quiz. And like I said, we're working closely to get the plan document to exactly how you want it, as close as we can, given the kind of the models and guidelines that we have. So I can stop there and see if you have any questions or comments or whatever else, response, reaction.
You look like you want to say something, Lexi.
Okay. I have a lot of comments.
Oh, wait. That's a lot of red marks.
I read this.
So before you go ahead, can I ask one thing?
No, you can't. You cannot.
I guess,
Proceed.
So I have it on my Word thing, a lot of comments and red marks and strikes. Would it be better if we share those
So the-
collaboratively on the line, on the email?
Yeah, so here's my thought. There's two separate things, right? One is edits to the text, which I think makes more sense to kind of combine, because my concern is that everybody will be making the same, this is where the comma should go
Yeah.
type edits. That stuff I think is best to kind of compile and then do it that way. But for the questions of concepts, I think that makes more sense to discuss.
Well, I had a lot of questions on concepts.
Right, and so that stuff I think is what should be discussed, if you get what I'm saying, yeah.
I promise I will skip anything that I said this should be reworded, and I will stick to substance.
Yeah.
Sure.
But right off the bat, I do want to point out, I made this document really big so I could read it and write on it. So let me pull it up so I can reference the pages for you.
Okay.
Kevin, do you want to start?
No, I'm just gonna share it on the email.
Okay. Shoot, where is it? There it is. Okay, so, before the goals and objectives, I wanted to point out that it talks about recent developments, large recent developments. You have Brightwell Crossing and Stony Springs listed. It's 4 paragraphs up. I'm curious as to, this seems a little bit weird to me, because Stony Springs is 10 to 15 years old. However, Westerly Grove just completed and isn't listed.
Yeah, I saw a lot of issues with the timelines
Okay.
and that too.
Yeah.
My
And I
thought,
have that in my
yeah,
little
my
notes.
thought there, and I think that's where we all have to communicate, is talking about history, timeline, dates, facts, and figures. I think the key thing to think about in terms of developments is what has happened since the last master plan.
Okay.
It should be the focus of this, and so that's my recommendation in terms of that specific paragraph. But I think reviewing dates and when things came online and stuff like that is something that we should all communicate on.
So with
correctly.
things coming online, the paragraph right before goals and objectives, it says that we will have 39 acres of impervious surfaces when current and proposed development projects are completed. What projects are those? Is there going to be a tagline to say, like, reference
Right.
these particular projects?
Yeah.
And how was that 39 acres determined?
I think that's calculated based on the lot sizes of the projects that were listed. So I I can look back on that. So part of it is data that I've pulled, and part of that is data that others have pulled. So I'll double check that information, and if we can make a table of that information, we'll go ahead and do that. Right, right. Yeah, I think that's just the total kind of calculating it. Right.
Is there a standard that you say a certain lot size has to
Okay. We'll check that and look at it in more detail. That's okay.
So, going to housing inventory and the third paragraph, I believe that this particular paragraph is misleading.
Which page are you on, sorry?
I am on
On
page 5.
Okay, sorry. Just wanna make
So
sure
it says
I was on
Poolsville housing market continues to trend upward with the median sales price of a single home hovering around $900,000. However, if you cross-reference that with where they have the median housing prices within Poolsville as pulled by your data, it was 158,000, or sorry, 533,000. That's under figure 6.3.
Right.
Median owner-occupied housing values, 533. That is, both of these numbers are correct, but this is a case in which just stating this is misleading. And I can tell you exactly why these are correct. It is because during that time frame, all of the Westerly Grove came online, and those houses were the bulk of the homes that we're selling within our market, and they are all very high-dollar homes.
Right.
And so it skewed during that time period. In fact, WAPO came out and said that, Poolsville went up 35% in a year, which is ridiculous. It didn't.
Right.
It was only because we were a very small number of sales, and this skewed it. And I think that if you include this number, or if you include it without commentary, it is
Okay.
misleading, and it also contradicts itself later on in the report.
Okay, no, that's a good point. We can clarify that in there. Okay,
This-
no,
Yeah.
sure. No, and part of it was, in all of our kind of production at this point, there's a lot going on. I didn't get a chance to fully vet it with staff yet. But we did want to make sure that we got some information out to you so we're able to continue moving forward with our process. So I appreciate noting this.
Also, I think there's a problem with table 6.2, in which you have, I think there's overlap between your multifamily dwellings and your 3 to 4 unit dwellings. I think you're counting things twice.
Okay. I will double check that.
Also, on number 6.6-3, table 6-3,
Okay,
first off, the last one says 9 or more bedrooms, and this is actually referenced where it talks about 2 paragraphs above that have 9 or more. There's an issue with the 9 or more. So first off, it shouldn't say bedrooms. But second, how are these rooms being counted? Because, and I bring this up, it does not appear that these rooms are being counted according to ANSI standards, which they should be.
okay,
A home with 3 bedrooms will typically have 6 to 7 rooms total according to ANSI standards, and your numbers don't line up.
okay. Okay.
So
check
even
that.
even something with, say, 3 and 4 bedrooms, they might have 8. Some of them will have 9, but I do not believe that 9 or more rooms accounts for such a high percentage. I think you're not
Okay.
keeping the standards.
Well-
It also says within the text that rooms being used as bedrooms but are maybe offices are being counted as bedrooms. You can't do that.
Okay, okay.
A bedroom is very well defined according to ANSI to have a closet.
Now, I think you're talking about 6.3?
6.3.
Yeah,
So I
table
think
6.
the issue there is,
I have 2 problems with 6.3 and 6.4.
yeah.
Those numbers can't be right.
No, because they
Okay.
use the wrong
Yeah,
I see them interchange bedrooms and rooms and get it mixed up.
Right.
it's not the
Okay.
same.
It's way messy.
Okay, I'll double check that information. So the person who compiled this with me has been out, and so I didn't get a chance to kind of fully go through all of this again.
I'm happy to forward you those guidelines if you like.
Sure, absolutely. If any comments or if you have any markups, I mean, I think I like Niall's idea. If you all want to consolidate your kind of technical edits, that would be great. But if there's any other information you want to just go ahead and share, go ahead and send that out.
Specifically, they reference under Table 6-4 that the source for the bedrooms and the rooms used mainly for the purpose, although also used for sleeping. That is, while that may be what the survey did, that is not something that would be correct when you market a house, when the assessor considers the house, when an appraiser looks at the house.
Okay.
There's some redundancies there. I will just send those on. Let's see. So, also, cross-referencing Table 6-7 with the table that had the housing unit breakdown, which is 6-4. You have that there is no occupancy comparison over 1. Everything is 1 or less. However, just by the fact that we have 22 no-bedroom or one-bedroom units or one-room units would say that that number is not 0. 22 units is not going to have a single person in every single one of those units.
Okay,
So I'm just saying that there seems to be some issue with your occupancy comparisons.
I see.
I do not believe that there are 0 people or 0 homes in Poolsville that don't have more than 1 person per room. And this is a little unclear too. Is this an occupancy per room or is it an occupancy per bedroom? Because if it's per
Okay.
bedroom, it's definitely not.
okay. Okay, so you're specifically talking about Table 6-7 there, right?
Table 6-7.
Okay, all right, I'll check this too. Okay.
Okay, I had a question on Table 610. And could
Okay.
you speak to its relevance?
Okay, so I think this is just showing kind of the tenure of housing within the town. And since we have available data for 2021, kind of comparing what the short-term trend is and versus, so, you know, do we need it in there? Maybe not, but it kind of shows you where the town is relative to the county and the state for, you know, turnover within the last 12 months, according to ACS data.
I don't think that's what it's saying. So that's what Table 6-9 is saying, like how long people have lived here and when they're moving in.
Right.
But 610 is saying is it saying where they came from? I'm confused as to what its purpose is. What does it mean?
I think what it's saying is where people came, so how many of the people in the town were in the same house this year as they were last year?
Okay.
How many people came to town, right? In other words, they were in a different house within the last year. There's a few people that might be in the same, bought a house basically and moved into Poolsville. And then where they came from
Same
is
state,
the
different
breakdown.
state,
So
or
same,
abroad.
Right.
same country, different country, same state, different house abroad. So it's saying where they're coming from generally, but that's the way I understand it.
Okay.
Right.
I was confused as to its relevance, although it does speak to perhaps diversity.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
it just shows the current diversity, doesn't show the trend,
right. Yeah, it's a snapshot in time because it's basically a 1 year.
which we do have increasing diversity.
Right. Right.
So I think I spoke about my concern with overcrowding not being mentioned with the studios. That would also reference Table 6-11. Aberdeen is mentioned within the report on
Oh,
page
sorry.
14.
Yeah, this is a little bit of, sort of this.
It's okay. I figured.
It's a general description.
I am
thought
guilty
I knew
too.
I was going to miss at least one or two, because I had a the track changes on this, having worked on it for about a month and a half, are
Well,
very significant.
I actually marked it because it brought me to table 612, which I don't understand what's happening with this table or what information I am trying to get from it.
Yeah. So this is talking a little bit about the affordability and the income limits based on the number of people in the family. And there's actually a little bit more narrative that I need to put together on this. And I'm actually going to be talking with County Housing Authority just to make sure that I have the more correct and updated data. So we'll be adding a little bit more to that description about the affordable housing issue.
But I think in terms of what this chart is saying,
Yes.
I think it's about the relative income brackets to that medium income. So,
Right, but it's for the county. It doesn't
Right.
necessarily speak to what's happening in Poolsville, which we all know is a little bit different.
right,
Right.
So I'm not sure how to juxtapose that against Poolsville's demographic and their income breakdown when I only have this one graph.
Right.
Because in every other graph, when you compare us,
Right.
you give us Poolsville, the state, and the county, or
Right.
Poolsville County and state.
Yeah.
So
ahead.
I just,
yeah.
Yeah, no, we need to pull a little bit more information locally to round that out. But that's what we need to look at in terms of the workforce and affordable housing. So, yeah, there's a little bit more work to be done on that element,
understood.
that portion of the element, I should say.
Thank you so much for hearing me out. That's as far
No,
as
that's
I went.
okay.
So,
And if
the
you have any
last
other
4
questions, no,
pages-
and again, I appreciate you all looking through this. And again, we can go through other comments if there are more on this. There's a lot of data. We can very easily get lost in it. And so, so we may, in addition to kind of fleshing this out, as it will be with all the elements, as we get your input and as we get a little bit more information, we'll probably be fleshing out all of the elements with more information as we go along. So anyway, other questions or comments on this? Nope. Okay.
I thought that Kevin, you had some. Did you have some?
A list of 13 questions here. Just kidding.
Okay, no,
Yeah, you said you could email yourself, right? You had some-
No, I'm going to email everything.
Yeah, you can email me everything, but
Yeah.
if you had things that you wanted to say right now that.
No. So I'm going to send you a Word document.
Yeah.
I'll put balloons with my comments
Yes. Perfect.
and red lines and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll, and like I said, we're tracking all the comments, and I think Niles, you and I need to just touch base a little
Yes.
bit on what, all the edits. So just make
Yeah.
sure I have the last version of everything.
Oh, yeah. We'll make sure.
And and again, we can, as we get closer to the end, we can share that with you, just because that way we can make sure we've caught everything, frankly. And if you have any other questions or comments relative to what we end up changing, to just make sure that final version is accurate. So there's a lot more information in this plan, probably at the end of the day, than there was in the last one. So that's one difference from last time.
Yeah. All right.
I will
Okay.
say, I do appreciate that all of the tables and charts are actually within the chapters and not referenced at the end.
At the end, yeah.
I
Yes.
very
Yeah.
much,
Okay.
I very much like this layout. It's very nice.
Thanks. Now, we've been working on the housing elements a lot the last few months, so we're kind of refining our approach. And I think the good thing is, once we get the comments back from the state, I think they'll, thumbs up most of it, and the only question will be whether we've been able to adequately address the other issues. But we're aware of that, so we're collaborating with them closely. So we'll bring this back next time, and if you have any questions. Did you have any questions about anything else from the previous meetings?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. So we'll be back.
All right.
And again, once you get that other information, if you have any questions, you can either go through Niles or you can contact me directly, and we can help you with whatever help you need. Okay?
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Moving on to item number 2 under old business, a water allocation discussion.
Yeah. So I provided a memo that sort of is a follow-up from the discussion we had last month. So this is at the very end of you have the printed packet, it's page 29 of that, but I sent it to you as well. Basically, what I did in this memo, so last time we talked generally about the allocation plan. For this memo, I wanted to talk about it in the framework of what we talked about at the end of the meeting last time. So with the focus will be first, of course, with the PFAS stuff, and I laid out a little bit of the update. The basic update is that we're working on this pilot program to install treatment facilities at wells 2 and 3, and that at this point, the plan is to begin to implement them in May, and then from there run a test to see, one, does the solutions that we've come up with remove the PFAS, which is what we believe will happen, and then two, the other thing that we'll be tracking is how well the media, in this case, virgin activated carbon, does in keeping in, how's the best way of putting it, in preventing breakthrough into the system of PFAS, is the cleanest way of saying that. So those are the two factors of it. The first part of testing whether it will actually remove the PFAS could be determined in within a month of putting the system in line, because we can sample and test. And then from there, with MDE's approval, we could actually implement these temporary solutions into the water system. So there's a chance that within a few months of starting the project, we will have it, well 3 and well 2 potentially back in system, at least on this pilot program basis. So that's what the update basically says. From there, what I wanted to do is look at the impact of well 2 and 3. So well 2 is usually off during the winters. So in terms of our capacity, in terms of what we do, it's pretty much in line with previous years. It's during the summer in which we have a concern about its impact. Now, in regular use, we have redundancies in the program, or in the facilities, so that we can absorb the capacity of water usage. The concern can sometimes be about peak usage. I used an example of July of 2020, where we had a maximum of 880,000 gallons, right? That was the peak demand during that month. So that's the highest amount that was used. That gets us closer to our overall capacity, which is that 921,000 mark. So with wells 2 and 3, those type of instances, when there's a drought, when there's some other issue that could force other wells to be off, things like that, that's where the stress on the system could potentially come in play. So I looked at those numbers and sort of broke down where we are on that front. What that means in terms of allocation is just giving you a sense, and that's what I did, of breaking down the usage of the current development pipeline. And so I have this table that just sort of gives you where things are, and then the footnote just says which properties these refer to for the units. And then how many gallons per day is roughly allocated to them, or is the usage that is requested in these developments.
What's the little number?
The
Like 39.3.
yeah,
It's a footnote.
that's the
It's not
footnote
above.
number.
Oh, thank you.
So the top line thing is with all of the developments, and these numbers are slightly different than the capacity plan, because what I included here, which wasn't in the capacity, is the Bricken property. So if you take in all of these allocations, it increases our usage based on these projections by about 60,000 gallons per day over what we are producing right now. So that just gives you a framework, and then the last part is simply what is left over. So 54,147 gallons per day. And then I use that EDU measurement that we did last time to give you a sense of what that provides left over. The considerations sort of here is in terms of the allocation plan. So one of the things that we could consider is whether it's worth pursuing or going through the process of an allocation plan now, or waiting until after we have more data back on what PFAS remediation looks like and how that could impact the system. So that was sort of one of the considerations there. And then the other thing to consider is just generally, there are different stages of development that each of these properties are in. So Mr. Hartz has already paid for some of his allocation and things like that. And so that affects what the town can do in terms of weighing how it approaches allocation. So that was sort of the last section of the memo. The key thing that I think is just to carry on from the conversation last time is just sort of give you a sense of where we are, what are we thinking about, and what things to consider. And with that, if you have any questions, let me know.
I do not have any questions.
No, I don't have any questions. It's good
It
information.
is, and well presented as well.
Yeah.
I do want to bring something up, though. In the past, we've had it was a week before we would get all the documents,
Yeah.
for the meeting, and a week before that was the cutoff. If somebody wasn't, confirmed and had their stuff in to be on the agenda,
Yeah.
there would be nothing added.
14 days.
14
Yeah, 14 days.
Yeah.
So that's part of one of the things that I'm working on, and I've talked to Wallace Montgomery about it and everybody about it, is just getting their things in on time. Understandably, even my report was later than I wanted it to be. Part of that is what I was working on internally and what was going on in the town. But I agree with that schedule. My view and what I want to hold to is that you will get the packet the Friday before the week that it is. So you have the weekend to look at it.
Yeah.
And that is the plan that I would like to do. If you want it to be earlier than that, we can work out that.
I
But-
think, I'm not gonna look at it before Saturday probably anyway, so
Mhm.
that's fine with me.
Mhm.
You guys can weigh in.
So I was saying today to Lexi, some of this, quite a few of the documents came,
Yes.
Monday or this morning.
Mhm.
Last night I had a class.
Yeah.
Today I was working. There was
Mhm.
no time to look at any of this before I came in the meeting. I mean, I'm reading it as you're talking
Yes.
about it, which is
Mhm.
not ideal.
Mhm.
Even the Friday before sometimes doesn't work beautifully, but I
Of
would
course.
love if, even if it's not all together,
Yeah.
if we get parts of it when they're available, that gives us the opportunity to decide, hey, I'm going to put that to the side, because I always open them and see
Yeah.
how long they are. If it's something that's a one-page read,
Yeah.
I can wait until the weekend before.
Yeah.
If I get a document that's the housing
Mhm.
chapter,
Yeah.
that's 19 pages, and I get it 2 weeks before, I actually may start reading that
Yeah.
2 weeks before.
And that is the part that I want, and I completely agree with you. That's the part where I want to make sure when we're doing this, and I talked to Michael about this, when we're planning out these chapters, like I said in the email, next time we're going to get hopefully even more. And so that's where we want to give as much time as possible for these. And part of that is give you the chapter, we give you the overview, you can read it, you can review it and do it that way.
Yeah,
But I agree with you in terms of getting things in. And that is why, personally, I know and feel, that I wanted to get stuff like this earlier. We were working on it, throughout, and I appreciate that, but also what we're trying to do as well.
And I'm fine with, especially a document like this coming in late because you were working on it and it was something that was a continuation of the previous meeting. It was important for us to have it in front of us tonight, I thought.
Yeah.
So totally fine with that. But if it was pretty much anything else, it just gets booted to the next month.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing that comes in the last, whatever the deadline is, if it's the Friday before the meeting, then that's what it is. Anything that comes in after that, if it's not ready by then, we don't have a chance to review it, it goes to the next month.
That's fine as well. We can do it that way as well.
I wouldn't have wanted that for the water allocation, so we
Yes.
can talk about it when something like this comes up, but
Right.
generally speaking.
Well, and I think that's where we can work out, that's where we tell, applicants, right, when they come in, that if they get it in, there's a 2-week, that they have to get it at least 2 weeks before a meeting, right? But that's where we try to work out those deadlines and work on that, and so we can do that, so.
I remember coming in to sign a plan, and Bobby was on the phone with somebody, and it was a Thursday, and she said, nope, sorry, next
Yeah.
month.
Yeah,
I mean, one day late, she said no. And they had
Yeah.
already contacted her saying they wanted to be on, but they didn't have the documents. She was good about that.
Yeah.
I was good about saying no.
Yes. I even saw her kind of the corner of her mouth twitch up a little bit, like she was about to smile or something. Sorry.
So we're gonna be working on updating the work plan, and then we'll be meeting with,
Yeah.
staff here over the next week or so. Part of our challenge, and we'll want to get your input as well, because like I said, a lot of this is very meaty information. It's pretty time intensive on our end as well, both for the mapping, the data, and the narrative. And so we'll probably maybe informally get your input, like how you would like to do that, because there's gonna be a lot of information. And, I mean, even if you read it, you'll probably have a lot of questions. So how we wanna handle that with you, so we're not over, especially if you have other things on your agenda, you know, to allow for enough time.
Yep.
I mean, I'm willing to be very flexible in terms of trying to get all the input, because we know it's just an ongoing process for us, but how it fits with your meetings,
Right.
we'll be sitting down with them to figure that out.
And it's a good point, because in 2 weeks, we're gonna be 2 weeks before the next meeting.
Yeah.
So
Oh, no.
we have feedback we have to give him, and then he's gotta incorporate that, and is he gonna have those
Yeah.
documents for us 2 weeks out? I mean,
Yeah.
likely not, right? I mean,
We're really, you know,
Yeah.
pushing up that hill, you know, at some point, especially once we get a lot of the data together from the land use, we'll be kind of at the top, and then it'll start to descend, because, you know, we'll have a lot of things assembled. and
Right.
taken input. So we'll work with Niles to figure out what makes the most sense for your schedule as well.
And I'm kind of fine too with your stuff. Like, it came this morning. There was no chance I was going to read it before today. Like, I assumed you were presenting on it, so I did not read it before. And then I figured I would read it and provide feedback later. So I think if there's certain things like I don't want to waste your time coming to present something if you would prefer us to read it. So that's something we need to figure out. But if you're just going to send it, if it's going to be sent late, I think the assumption has to be none of us are going to do it before.
No,
Right.
And, you know, again, that's the thing I think we can sort out, because it's sometimes presenting it to you and then you taking it and reading it and asking some preliminary questions, because we're gonna be, you know, a lot of this is kind of rolling, again, on a rolling basis, so as we get through the, you know, we'll finish what we talked about last month as we
Right.
introduce a new one, and then, you know, go to the next one and respond to the last one. So, you know, it's just kind of our production schedule, and it's a little, I mean, there's a lot of analysis and mapping on our end and data that we're just pulling. So we'll sort it out, I think, because trying to make it not so much as just dumping on you, like getting the necessary response and having you be able to absorb it and give us good reactions out of it.
I'm sorry to add that extra agenda item on there without any warning. I do have one agenda item left.
Oh, I would like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Anybody want to second that?
Yes, please.
Niles, are you okay? Did you want to say something?
No, I'm
Okay.
completely good. Thank
All
you.
in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night.
All right.
Do you only have comment sessions at the beginning of the meeting? Do you only have comment periods at the beginning of the meeting? Otherwise, you hear the midnight.